Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're going to look at something that'll completely revolutionize how you interpret diagnostic data. Seriously, if you've ever stared at a lab report and just felt your eyes glaze over, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're mastering liver function enzyme patterns, and we're going to do it using the most intuitive tool imaginable, your very own hand. So, let's dive right in.
Let's be real for a second. We've all been there. It is a completely universal frustration for med students and seasoned pros alike. You're trying to rote memorize this absolute alphabet soup of diagnostic acronyms, and, well, under pressure, they just kind of blur together. You find yourself asking, wait, is it AST that spikes here, or ALP, or actually, was it ALP? It's completely maddening, right? Well, you are definitely not alone in this struggle.
To really grasp the problem, let's quickly reintroduce our key players. We've got alkaline phosphatase, known as ALP, aspartate aminotransferase, or AST, alanine aminotransferase, which is ALT, and gamma-glutamyl-transferase, GGT. Try saying that 5 times fast. Reading through these 4 full enzyme names really highlights how easily they just blend together on a textbook page. They're just this messy jumble of A's, S's, T's, L's, and G's. Honestly, trying to keep them straight without a system is like trying to memorize a totally random string of passwords.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the alphabet soup problem. Then, we'll map out the CAO framework. We'll break that down into C for chronic, A for acute, and O for obstructive. And finally, we'll tie it all back to the clinical data by comparing marked versus slight increases. Simple as that.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the alphabet soup problem and exactly why our memory fails us.
So attempting to memorize raw, unanchored data is fundamentally a losing battle for the human brain. We literally need physical connections to make information stick. Right now, we have 4 distinct enzymes, and we're trying to map them to 3 distinct clinical conditions. Without a mnemonic device, that is just a recipe for one massive diagnostic headache. But don't stress, because the cure for that headache is exactly what we're looking at next.
Moving on to Section 2, mapping the CAO framework directly onto your diagnostic hand.
Okay, the setup here is incredibly simple, and I want you to physically follow along with me right now. Seriously, do it. Hold up your right hand, palm facing out towards you. Now imagine mapping our 4 enzymes from your pointer finger all the way across to your pinky finger. Moving from left to right, your index finger is ALP, your middle finger is AST, your ring finger is ALT, and your pinky finger is GGT. ALP, AST, ALT, GGT. Take a second and lock that left to right order right into your mind.
Got it? Perfect. With that mapping in place, here is the overarching CAO acronym. Let's do a quick little teaser of the structure. Step 1 is C for chronic hepatitis, and for this, you're going to make a fist. Go ahead and make a fist right now. Step 2 is A for acute hepatitis. For that, flash a peace sign. And step 3 is O for obstructive jaundice. Throw up the rock-on horns. CAO. Fist, peace, horns. It is beautifully simple. Now let's break down exactly how each one works.
Section 3, C is for chronic, the fist. Before we attach the physical gesture back to it, let's clearly define the actual enzyme pattern we're looking for. In cases of chronic hepatitis, you're going to see a condition where all 4 of our key liver enzymes, ALP, AST, ALT, and GGT, show uniform slight increases. No massive spikes here, just a steady, slight elevation across the board.
All right, make that tight fist again. When your hand is in a fist, all 4 of those fingers we mapped are neatly aligned together at the exact same level. Notice the thin teal arrows hovering above the fist here. These thin arrows represent that slight increase. Because all the fingers are tucked in together in that C shape, the fist, it instantly reminds you that all 4 enzymes are slightly elevated together. So C is for chronic, and chronic is the fist.
Section 4. A is for acute, the peace sign.
Now we're shifting our focus away from those slight uniform elevations to dramatic enzyme spikes. When a condition is acute, it is sudden and it's severe. The rule here is super simple. The inner fingers spike. We're looking for a marked increase, but only in specific enzymes. And for acute hepatitis, it's those 2 middle inner enzymes in our lineup.
So throw up that peace sign. Conceptually, we are looking at the 2 inner enzymes, AST and ALT. Notice the thick, upward purple arrows on those raised fingers. That indicates a marked increase. Meanwhile, the outer fingers stay curled down, with only those thin teal arrows, meaning they're just slightly increased. So remember, A is for acute is the peace sign, and the peace sign means your inner enzymes AST and ALT are the ones dramatically spiking.
Section 5, O, is for obstructive, the horns.
Okay, the rule here is the outer finger spike. And what is so incredibly elegant about this whole system is that the pattern for obstructive jaundice is the exact physical inverse of the acute pattern we literally just learned. Instead of the inside spiking, it's the outside.
Go ahead and make the rock-on horns gesture. You're raising your pointer finger and your pinky finger, right? Well, based on our left to right map, what are those outer fingers? The pointer is ALP and the pinky is GGT. Notice those thick purple arrows, the marked increases, sitting right on top of them. At the same time, the inner fingers, AST and ALT, are tucked away with just a thin teal arrows representing a slight increase. So O's for obstructive is the horns, and the horns mean the outer enzymes are spiking.
Seeing these patterns side by side really solidifies the whole system. Compare the peace sign directly against the horns. Over on the left, acute hepatitis. The inner fingers, AST and ALT, are markedly increased. On the right, obstructive jaundice. The outer fingers, ALP and GGT, are markedly increased. By putting these physical contrasts directly into your muscle memory, mixing up these conditions becomes almost impossible. Your hand is literally doing the thinking for you.
All right, section 6, marked versus slight increases, looking at the clinical data.
Now, as much as we absolutely love a good mnemonic, we're professionals, right? We need to ground these hand gestures in actual clinical thresholds. What exactly do we mean when we say slight versus marked? Well, here is where the rubber meets the road. A marked increase, which we visualize with those thick purple arrows pointing up on our peace sign and our horns, clinically translates to enzyme levels that are usually greater than 5 times the upper limit of normal. On the flip side, a slight increase, represented by the thin teal arrows pointing up like we saw across the board on the chronic fist, usually means the enzyme levels are elevated, but they remain less than 5 times the upper limit of normal. Connecting the visual thickness of the arrow to that clinical threshold of greater than or less than 5 is the absolute final key to locking all of this knowledge in for good.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Next time you're looking at a complicated liver panel, will your hands know the diagnosis before your brain does? You now have a permanent physical diagnostic tool attached right to your wrist. Just remember your left-to-right map and the CAO framework. Fist for chronic, peace for acute, and horns for obstructive. Keep practicing those gestures and you'll never mix up an AST with an ALP again. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in this explainer.